The lights on the bridge of the Andorian trade nexus flickered as another ship vanished from the sensors. Commander Hyun-woo stared at the empty space where the cargo vessel had been just moments before. This was the 7th ship to disappear. In the silent sector this month, any distress signals? Hyun-woo asked, though he already knew the answer. Nothing, sir, replied Communications Officer Yoon-ji, her crystalline fingers dancing over the control panel. As a member of the Veltari race, her body reflected light in beautiful patterns when she was stressed. Right now, those patterns were very bright. The ship just stopped existing on our sensors. Hyun-woo walked to the large viewing window that looked out into space. The Andorian trade nexus was massive, bigger than most planets. It sat at the crossing point of 3 major space lanes, where ships from the Veltari Crystal Empire, the Nefkai Ocean Worlds, and the Threx Collective all came to trade. For over 300 years, this place had been peaceful. Now, something was hunting in the darkness beyond. "Sir," called out Taemin from the station. The young tactical analyst had been working without sleep for days, trying to find a pattern. "In the disappearances, I think I found something." Han-woo moved to Taemin's workstation. Charts and numbers filled the screen, showing ship movements and disappearance points. Red dots marked where vessels had vanished. "Look at this," Taemin said, pointing to the display. "The disappearances aren't random. They're moving in a pattern, getting closer to the main trade routes. Whatever is taking these ships is learning our traffic patterns." "Learning?" Han-woo felt a chill run down his spine. "You think something intelligent is behind this?" "Has to be," pirates would demand. "Ransom, natural phenomena don't move in patterns like this. This is something that watches, learns, and hunts." Unji suddenly straightened at her station. "Commander, I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors. It's big." Hyun-woo hurried back to her station. "How big?" "Bigger than anything in our database, and it's moving fast." "Very fast." Unji's light patterns were now flashing rapidly. "Sir, nothing should be able to move at these speeds. The energy readings are impossible. Where is it heading?" "Straight for us." The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of machinery. Hyun-woo felt every eye watching him. He had commanded ships for 20 years, fought in border skirmishes with raiders, and kept peace in one of the galaxy's busiest trade zones. But he had never seen anything like this. "Sound General Alert," he ordered. "Get me Admiral KO-1 on the quantum link, now." As alarms began to sound throughout the massive station, Hyun-woo tried to think. What could move that fast? What could be that large? The 3 major galactic powers had all agreed to keep their biggest warships away from the trade nexus. It was neutral space, protected by treaty. "Sir," Yoon-ji called out, her voice shaking. "The object just dropped out of hyperspace." It's right there." On the main screen, something appeared that made everyone on the bridge step backward. The ship was long and sleek, like a knife made of metal and energy. It was dark gray with strange markings along its hull. But what scared Hyun-woo most was how it moved. The massive vessel turned and twisted through space like a small fighter, defying everything he knew about physics. "Energy readings are off the scale," Taemin reported. "I've never seen anything like this. The power source alone should be impossible." "Are they scanning us?" Hyun-woo asked. "Yes, sir." "Deep scans. They're looking at everything, our weapons, our shields, our life support systems. It's like they're reading us like a book." Hyun-woo was about to order defensive positions when Eunji gasped. "Sir, they're sending a message, audio and visual. Put it through." The main screen changed to show the inside of the alien ship's bridge. What Hyun-woo saw made his blood run cold. The beings on the bridge looked almost exactly like humans. But humans had been gone for over 200 years. Everyone knew the story. They had fought a war with the 3 galactic powers and lost. Their homeworld was destroyed, their fleets scattered. No human had been seen in known space since then, yet here they were. A human male stepped forward on the screen. He was tall, with dark hair and calm eyes that seemed to see everything. When he spoke, his voice was clear and strong. "This is Captain Jinho of the United Earthship Retribution. We need to talk. The bridge stayed silent. Han Wu found his mouth dry. United Earthship, Earth was gone. Everyone knew that. The humans had fled or died when their war with the galaxy ended badly for them. I am Commander Hyun Woo of the Andorian. Trade Nexus, he finally managed to say. Earth was destroyed 2 centuries ago. Who are you really? Captain Jinho's expression didn't change. Earth is gone, yes, but humanity is not. We've been away, dealing with other problems. Now we're back, and we need to discuss what's been happening in your silent sector. You know about the missing ships? We know about what's taking them, and we know it's just the beginning. Jinho paused, looking directly at Hyun Woo through the screen. Commander, your people are in danger. All of your people, the 3 galactic powers, this station, everyone. Something is coming that makes your old war with us look like a children's game. Taemin was working frantically at his station. Sir, he whispered to Hyun Woo, I'm detecting more ships, a lot more. They're staying back, but they're there. How many? Hyun Woo whispered back, at least 50, maybe more. All the same design. As this one, Hyun Woo felt sweat on his forehead. One of these ships had scared his entire crew. Now there were 50 of them waiting in the darkness of space. Captain Jinho, Hyun Woo said, trying to keep his voice steady. What do you want? Permission to dock. We have information that your leaders need to hear. Information about what? Destroyed your missing ships, and what's coming next? And if we refuse? Jinho's expression became sad. Then you'll face what's coming alone, and Commander, you're not ready for it. None of you are. Yunji was checking her readings again. Sir, the ship's weapon systems are unlike anything in our database. I can't even tell what they are, but the energy signatures suggest they could destroy this entire station with a single shot. Han Wu looked at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for his decision. He thought about the missing ships, the impossible speeds, the technology that shouldn't exist. Then he thought about the calm confidence in Captain Jinho's voice. This wasn't a threat or a demand. It was a warning. Very well, Captain Jinho. You have permission to dock at Bay 7, but know that this station is under the protection of 3 galactic powers. Jinho's smile was gentle but somehow sad. Commander, after what we've seen out there, your 3 galactic powers need our protection. We'll dock in 1 hour. Please gather whoever makes decisions around here. What we have to show them will change everything. The screen went dark. In the silence that followed, Hyun Woo stared out at the stars and wondered what humanity had become during their 2 centuries of absence. Whatever it was, he had the feeling that the galaxy was about to learn that losing a war wasn't always the end of the story. Sometimes, it was just the beginning. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the council chambers of the Andorian trade. Nexus, representatives from the 3 major galactic powers sat around a circular table, their faces showing fear and confusion. Han Wu stood at the center, explaining what had happened on his bridge just 1 hour ago. Humans, said Counselor So Young, her crystalline body growing dim with worry. She was old, even by Valtari standards, and one of the few beings alive who remembered the human war. Are you certain they were humans? They looked exactly like the historical records, Hyun Woo replied. The captain even said he was from United Earth, but that's impossible. Earth was destroyed. Admiral Kang Ho of the Nefkai leaned forward in his water-filled suit. His aquatic face showed bubbles of distress. Perhaps they're descendants? Survivors who fled to distant worlds? No, So Young said quietly. You don't understand. None of you were there during the war. Humans don't just survive. They adapt. They learn. They become something new. Her light patterns flickered with old memories. We didn't drive them away. We scared them into hiding, and now they're back. Taemin was at his station monitoring the approaching human ship. Counselor, with respect? How dangerous could they be? It's just one ship. So Young's laugh was bitter. Just one ship? Young analyst, let me tell you about the last time someone said that about humans. She stood up, her crystalline form catching the light. It was 237 years ago. A human merchant vessel was attacked by pirates in the Outer Rim, Just one small ship with a crew of 20. She began to pace, her memories, making her glow brighter. The pirates destroyed the ship and killed everyone aboard. Standard pirate behavior. Except one of the crew sent out a distress call before dying. The message reached a human military vessel 3 days later. Admiral Kong Ho shifted in his water suit. What happened? The humans traced the pirates back to their base, a heavily defended asteroid fortress with over 3,000 raiders. The single human warship didn't call for backup. It didn't demand surrender. It simply attacked. So Young stopped pacing and looked at each council member. When the battle was over, there were no survivors among the pirates. Not one. The human ship took no damage. That's impossible, protested Taemin. Is it? The humans studied the pirate base for exactly 4 hours. In that time, they learned every weakness, every flaw in the defenses. Then they acted with perfect precision. No wasted shots, no unnecessary destruction, just ... efficiency. Hyun Woo felt cold. What happened after that? Word spread. Every pirate, raider, and criminal organization in the galaxy learned that attacking humans meant death. Not capture, not negotiation, death. But that wasn't the scary part. So Young's glow became very dim. The scary part was that the humans kept learning. Learning what? Asked Admiral Kang Ho. Everything. Every ship design, every weapon system, every tactical doctrine. They would study our technology and then make it better. They would watch our battles and find improvements we never thought of. In just 50 years, human ships became more advanced than anything we had. Ng entered the chamber, carrying a datapad. Counselor, I've been analyzing the energy readings from the human ship. I thought you should see this. So Young took the pad and her crystal body immediately flared bright with shock. These readings, this is impossible. What is it? Hyun Woo asked. The power source on that ship generates more energy than our entire station. The hull materials are denser than anything in our databases. And the weapons. So Young's voice trailed off. What about the weapons? I can't identify them. The energy signatures don't match anything we know. It's like they're using completely different physics. Admiral Kang Ho bubbled nervously in his suit. Maybe they found new technology during their exile? No, So Young said firmly. This isn't found technology. This is evolved technology. They've been developing and improving for over 2 centuries with no limits, no restrictions, no oversight. Taemin looked up from his console. The human ship is requesting permission to dock. They're also asking for representatives from all 3 galactic powers to meet with them. Should we evacuate the station? Asked Admiral Kang Ho. So-yeon considered this carefully. If they wanted to destroy us, we would already be dead. The fact that they're asking permission to dock means they want something from us. And that might be our only advantage. What do you mean? Hyun Woo asked. Humans value communication. Even during a war, they always tried to talk first. They preferred to solve problems without fighting when possible, but... So Young paused, her glow becoming uncertain. But what? But they also believed in what they called overwhelming response. If talking failed, they would hit back so hard that the problem would never happen again. Ever. The council chamber fell silent. Through the large viewing window, they could see the human ship moving toward the docking bay. It moved like a living thing, smooth and graceful despite its enormous size. I've been reading the historical files, Taemin said quietly. About the human war. Why did it start? So Young's expression grew sad. Fear. We were afraid of how quickly they were advancing, how easily they adapted to our technology, how they seemed to excel at everything they tried. She looked around. The room. The 3 galactic powers had been the dominant forces for thousands of years. Then humans appeared, and in just 1 century they were equal to us in every way. So you attacked them? Admiral Kang Ho asked. We restricted them, blocked their expansion, limited their access to certain technologies. We told ourselves it was for galactic stability. So Young's glow dimmed with shame. But really, we were just scared of being replaced. And they fought back, Hyun-woo said. They defended themselves. The war lasted 10 years, and every year human ships became more advanced, their tactics more refined. By the end, they were winning battles against fleets 10 times their size. Then why did they disappear? Taemin asked. So Young was quiet. For a long moment, because they realized something we didn't. They were becoming something the galaxy couldn't accept. So they chose to leave rather than destroy us? Leave to where? No one knows. Their entire civilization just vanished. Every human world, every ship, every station, gone in less than a month. We sent scouts to their former territories for decades. Nothing. It was like they had never existed. Yoonji checked her readings again. The human ship has docked. Captain Jinho is requesting a meeting in Conference Room 1. Hyun-woo looked around the council chamber. Should we go? So Young stood up, her crystalline body reflecting the emergency lights like a prism. We have to, if humans have returned. After 2 centuries, it means something has happened that requires their attention. And if something requires the attention of evolved humans, she paused, looking out at the stars. Then the rest of us are probably already in more trouble than we can imagine. As they prepared to leave for the meeting, Taemin called out one more reading. Counselor, I'm detecting additional ships at the edge of our sensor range. The computer estimates at least 60 vessels, all matching the design of the ship that docked. So Young stopped at the door. 60 ships. During the war, 3 human ships once defeated an entire Threx battle fleet. She looked back at the council members. Whatever Captain Jinho wants to tell us, we're going to listen very carefully. The council members filed out of the chamber, each lost in their own thoughts about what humanity might have become during their long absence from the galaxy. Outside the window, stars continued to shine peacefully, unaware that their galaxy was about to change forever. The docking bay fell silent as the airlock opened. Hyun-woo stood with a small group of station security, watching the entrance to the human ship. He had seen many different species over the years, but something about waiting for humans made him nervous in a way he couldn't explain. Captain Jinho stepped out first. He was tall and moved with quiet confidence, like someone who had seen many battles but felt no need to show off. Behind him came 2 other humans, a woman with sharp eyes who constantly looked around the docking bay, and a man carrying some kind of scanning device. Commander Hyun-woo, Jinho said with a slight bow. Thank you for allowing us to dock. This is my first officer Haewon and science officer Changmin. Hyun-woo noticed something immediately. The humans looked exactly like they did in historical records from 2 centuries ago. No changes, no evolution, as if time had stopped for them. Captain Jinho, welcome to the Andorian Trade Nexus. The council is waiting to meet with you. Of course, Jinho smiled, but his eyes were serious. Before we begin, may I ask how many ships have disappeared from your silent sector? 43 vessels in the past 6 months, Hyun-woo replied. All different types, different routes. No survivors, no wreckage. Chang-min looked up from his scanning device. The pattern matches what we expected. They're testing your defenses, learning your responses. They? Who are they? Asked Hyun-woo. That's what we need to discuss with your council, Haewon said. Her voice was calm, but Hyun-woo noticed her hand stayed near what looked like a weapon on her belt. Is the station secure? Secure from what? From listening devices, from external scans, from anything that might record our conversation. Hyun-woo felt confused. This is a trade station. We have normal security, but we're not a military facility. The 3 humans exchanged glances. Jinho nodded to Changmin, who pressed something on his device. Immediately, all the lights in the docking bay flickered and the normal background hum of machinery changed pitch. What did you just do? Hyun-woo demanded. Made this area secure, Changmin said simply. Sorry, but what we're going to tell your council cannot be overheard by anyone else. The information is too dangerous. As they walked toward the conference room, Hyun-woo noticed how the humans moved. They seemed to see everything, analyze everything, like they were building a map of the entire station in their minds. Hey, one glanced at security cameras and weapon positions. Changmin's device quietly scanned walls and doors. Jinho watched the people they passed, studying faces and reactions. You're cataloging our defenses, Haiyan-Wu said. Old habit, Jinho replied. When you've spent 2 centuries fighting for survival, you learn to assess every environment you enter. Fighting who? You'll see. They reached conference room 1, where the council was waiting. Counselor So Young stood as they entered, her crystalline body reflecting the room's lights in nervous patterns. Admiral Kanho floated in his water suit near the main table. Several other representatives from the 3 galactic powers sat around the room. Captain Jinho, So Young said formally. I am Counselor So Young of the Veltari Crystal Empire. I was present during the end of our last ... interaction. Jinho studied her for a moment. I know who you are, Counselor. You voted to allow human refugees safe passage to the Outer Rim when the war ended. We remember. So Young's glow brightened with surprise. You remember individual votes from over 2 centuries ago? We remember everything, Haewon said quietly. Every kindness. Every cruelty, every decision that affected our people. Changmin set up a projection device in the center of the table. With your permission, we'd like to show you why we've returned. Proceed, said Admiral Kangho, the device activated, filling the air above the table with a 3-dimensional star map. It showed the galaxy with familiar trade routes and territorial boundaries marked in different colors. But at the edge of the map, something was wrong. This is your galaxy as it exists today, Jinho explained. 3 major powers, dozens of smaller civilizations, thousands of trade worlds. He touched a control and the map zoomed in on the silent sector. And this is where ships have been disappearing. Red dots appeared on the map, showing the locations where vessels had vanished. The pattern was clear now, a line advancing steadily toward the major trade routes. Now, Jinho said, let me show you what's really happening. The map changed. Beyond the edge of known space, something appeared that made everyone in the room lean forward. It looked like a dark stain spreading across the stars with thousands of moving dots within it. This is what we call the Devourer fleet, Changmin said. They're not from this galaxy. They came from beyond the galactic rim about 3 centuries ago. 3 centuries? So Young's voice was shocked. But that was before the human war. Yes, Jinho said. We discovered them shortly after our first contact with your civilizations. We tried to warn you, but we were too busy being afraid of you, So Young finished. Her glow dimming with understanding. HFY manipulated the controls, and the image zoomed in on the approaching darkness. Now they could see individual ships within the fleet. They were enormous, irregular shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Devourers don't want territory, Jinho explained. They don't want resources or slaves or anything you might negotiate for. They consume entire star systems, converting all matter into more ships, more weapons, more fleet. Admiral Kangho's water suit bubbled with distress. How many ships are in that fleet? Conservative estimate? 2 million vessels. Most of them larger than your biggest dreadnoughts. The conference room fell silent. Taemin, who had been taking notes, stopped writing and stared at the projection. When we tried to tell your governments about this threat during our early contacts, one continued, they assumed we were lying to gain some advantage. The war started because you thought we were making up enemies to justify our military build-up. So you left? So Young said quietly. We had a choice, Jinho said. Stay and fight a war against 3 galactic powers while an extinction-level threat approached from outside, or disappear and focus all our efforts on the real enemy. Changmin added new data to the projection. For 230 years, we've been fighting the Devourers alone, slowing them down, learning their technology, studying their tactics. Where? Asked Haiyan-Wu. Double quotes everywhere, Haewon replied. The space between galaxies, distant star clusters, dead systems where we could test weapons without risking civilian populations. She paused. We fought 10,000 battles you never knew about, And now they're here, Jinho said. The advanced scouts that have been taking your ships are just the beginning. The main fleet will arrive within days. So Young's crystalline body was now glowing very brightly with fear. What do you want from us? Help, Jinho said simply. We've slowed them down, but we can't stop them alone, not anymore. They've adapted to our tactics, learned from our attacks. We need the combined resources of all galactic civilizations. But surely your technology. Admiral Kanho began. Changmin smiled sadly. Our technology is far beyond what it was during the war. We can do things you might consider impossible. But the Devourers have been adapting too, and they have numbers we can't match. Jinho stood up. Counselor So Young, you remember how quickly humans learned during our war with you? The Devourers learn even faster. Every battle teaches them something new. Every weapon we use, they find a counter for. And how do we fight them? Taemin asked. Together, Haewon said. Humans learned to think differently during our exile. Your three civilizations have advantages we've lost. Different perspectives, different approaches to problems. What kind of advantages? So Young asked. Veltari crystal technology can disrupt their communication networks. Nefkai fluid dynamics might solve problems with their ship movements. Threk's collective thinking could help coordinate battles across multiple star systems. Changmin pointed to the star map. Alone, each of our civilizations will fall. The Devourers have defeated species more advanced than any of us. But together with human coordination and alien innovation, we might find solutions none of us could discover alone. Jinho walked to the viewing window and looked out at the stars. The war between humans and the galaxy ended badly for everyone. We all paid a price, but that war is over. This is something bigger. He turned back to the council. The Devourer fleet will be here in 72 hours. After that, talking won't be an option anymore. The only question is whether you want to face them as allies or as separate civilizations that just happen to be in the same galaxy. The room stayed quiet as everyone absorbed what they had learned. Finally, Counselor So Young spoke. Captain. Jinho, what exactly are you proposing? A galactic defense alliance, immediate mobilization of all military assets, shared technology and tactical coordination. Jinho's expression grew serious. And you need to understand, this isn't a request. With or without your help, we're going to fight the Devourers. But with your help, some of you might survive? The weight of his words settled over the conference room like a heavy blanket. Outside the window, the stars looked the same as always. But everyone in the room now knew that within days, the galaxy would be at war for its very existence. The tour of the UES Retribution began in what Jinho called the observation deck, but Haiyan-Wu quickly realized that nothing about this ship matched normal expectations. The room was larger inside than the ship's external dimensions should have allowed, and the walls seemed to shift and change as they walked. How is this possible? Haiyan-Wu asked, staring at a corridor that extended far beyond where the ship's hull should have ended. Folded space technology, Changmin explained, casually, as if he were discussing the weather. We learned to bend space-time to create more room inside our ships, standard equipment now. Hey, one led the group of galactic representatives deeper into the ship. Counselor So Young's crystalline body flickered with confusion as she tried to understand what she was seeing. Admiral Kang Ho floated silently in his water suit, taking in every detail. This level contains our manufacturing facilities, Haewon said, opening a door to reveal something that made everyone stop walking. The room beyond was filled with machines that seemed to create matter from nothing. Streams of energy flowed through transparent tubes, and at the end of each assembly line, complex devices materialized out of thin air. You're creating matter from pure energy, Taemin said, his voice filled with awe. Among other things, Changmin nodded. We can manufacture anything we need: food, weapons, spare parts, even basic elements. We haven't needed to mine resources or trade for supplies in over a century. That's impossible, Admiral Kang Ho bubbled through his water suit. The energy requirements alone would destroy most civilizations. Yes, Haewon agreed. But we learned to tap into quantum fluctuations, zero-point energy, even dimensional barriers. During our exile, impossible became necessary. They continued the tour, and each new room revealed technology that seemed like magic. Medical bays where wounds healed in minutes. Computer systems that responded to thoughts instead of commands. Weapons that could be configured to destroy anything from a single ship to an entire star system. "How many crew members do you have?" So Young asked. "For this ship, about 800, Jinho replied. "Most of our vessels can operate with crews 1/10 the size you would need." 800 people to operate a ship this large? He Yangwu was amazed. Humans live longer now, He-Won explained. Average lifespan is about 400 years. We learn more, experience more, become more efficient. And our technology assists with everything. Changmin led them to what he called the tactical center. The room was dominated by a huge three-dimensional display showing the space around the trade nexus, but what caught everyone's attention were the people working at various stations. Every human in the room moved with perfect coordination. They seemed to know what their colleagues needed before being asked. When one person stood up, another was already moving to assist. It was like watching a dance performed by people who had practiced together for lifetimes. "This is how we fight," Jinho said, noticing their stares. 2 centuries of constant warfare taught us to work together in ways that would have been impossible before our exile. "It's like you're reading each other's minds," Taemin observed. "Not exactly," Haewon smiled, "but close. We've learned to communicate on levels beyond just speech. Micro-expressions, body language, even pheromone patterns. When you fight for survival for over 200 years, you learn to use every advantage." Suddenly, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Not loud, frightening alarms, but quiet, efficient tones that somehow seemed more urgent than any screaming siren. "Contact," announced a human at one of the stations. 6 vessels emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system. Configuration matches Devourer scout patterns. Jinho moved to the center of the tactical display. Distance? 47 million kilometers and closing. Estimated arrival at the trade nexus in 18 minutes. Hyun-woo felt panic rising in his chest. "Shouldn't we evacuate? Call for reinforcements?" "No time for evacuation," Haewon said calmly. "And reinforcements wouldn't help against scouts this advanced." "Then what do we do?" So Young asked, her crystalline body flashing with fear. "We show you what humanity learned during our exile," Jinho said. He touched a control panel and spoke clearly. "All stations, prepare for scout engagement. Standard. Doctrine 7. Execute in 90 seconds. Around them, the human crew moved with frightening efficiency. No one seemed worried or excited. They just did their jobs with the calm precision of people who had done this thousands of times before. "Counselor So Young," Changmin said, "you might want to watch this carefully. Your people will need to understand how we fight now." On the tactical display, the 6 Devourer ships became visible. They were dark, irregular shapes that seemed to absorb sensor beams instead of reflecting them. Even through the display, they looked wrong somehow, like they didn't belong in normal space. "Those ships are each the size of a Veltari battlecruiser," Taemin said, checking the readings. "Larger," corrected a human technician. "And their hull material is unlike anything in our databases. They seem to adapt to different weapons in real time. How do you fight something like that?" Admiral Kang-ho asked. "Watch," said Jin-Ho. The Retribution began to move. But unlike any ship Hyun-woo had ever seen, it moved like a living creature. It twisted and turned through space, accelerating and changing direction in ways that should have killed everyone. "Aboard, inertial dampeners at 300% efficiency," reported one of the crew members. "How are we not dead?" Han-woo gasped, feeling his stomach lurch as the ship performed an impossible turn. "Gravity manipulation?" Haewon explained. "We learned to control gravitational fields around our ships. From the crew's perspective, we're barely moving." On the display, the Devourer ships were closing fast. They moved in a formation that seemed random but probably wasn't. As they approached, they began to change shape, their hulls flowing like liquid metal. "They're adapting to our sensor profile," Changmin observed. "Interesting. They're more advanced than the scouts we encountered in the Outer Rim? Is that bad?" So Young asked. "It's educational," Jinho replied. Fire. What happened next lasted exactly 14 minutes, but Haiyan Wu would remember every second for the rest of his life. The Retribution didn't just shoot at the Devourer ships. It danced around them, firing weapons that seemed to bend space itself. Beams of energy that curved through dimensions, projectiles that existed in multiple places at once, fields that made enemy ships simply stop functioning. The Devourer vessels fought back with weapons that defied physics. Gravity bombs that twisted space into knots. Energy drains that tried to shut down the Retribution's power systems. Boarding pods that phased through solid matter, but the humans were ready for everything. They countered each attack with perfect timing, as if they had fought these exact opponents before. When the Devourers adapted to one weapon, the humans switched to another. When the enemy ships tried to coordinate their attacks, human jamming systems disrupted their communications. "How do you know how to fight them so well?" Taemin asked, watching the battle with amazement. "Because we've been fighting them for 2 centuries, Haewon replied. "Every tactic they're using we've seen before. Every weapon, every adaptation. This isn't a battle for us, it's a test. A test of what? Of how much they've learned since our last encounter." The battle ended when the last Devourer ship simply disintegrated under focused fire from weapons Haiyan Wu couldn't even identify. The Retribution had taken no damage. None of the human crew seemed surprised or pleased. They just returned to their duties as if nothing had happened. "That's it?" Admiral Kong Ho asked. 6 ships that could have destroyed our entire defense fleet, and you just eliminated them? "Scout ships are easy," Jinho said. "Wait until you see what their main fleet looks like." Chang Min was studying data from the battle. "Interesting. These scouts were more advanced than expected. They've definitely been learning from our previous encounters." "What does that mean?" So Young asked. "It means the main fleet will be harder to fight than we anticipated," Haewon said. "But it also means they consider this galaxy enough of a threat to send improved scouts." Jinho turned to face the galactic representatives. "What you just saw was a minor skirmish against advanced scouts. In 72 hours, the main Devourer fleet will arrive. That fleet contains over 2 million ships, many of them larger than this station." He gestured to the tactical display, which now showed the aftermath of the battle. "We can handle scouts. We can even handle small fleets, but the main force ... He paused. "The main force will require everything we've learned, everything we've built, and everything you can contribute." "And if we can't stop them?" Haiyan Wu asked. Jinho's expression became very serious. "Then this galaxy will be consumed, converted into raw materials for their expansion into the next galaxy. Every world, every civilization, every life form, all of it will become part of their fleet." The tactical center fell silent except for the quiet hum of advanced machinery. Outside the ship, space looked peaceful and normal. But everyone in the room now understood that this peace had only 72 hours left to live. "The question," Jinho said finally, "is whether you want to spend those 72 hours preparing to fight or preparing to die." The emergency meeting had been going for 6 hours. Representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy filled the main assembly hall of the Andorian Trade Nexus. The air buzzed with dozens of different languages as species argued, debated, and tried to understand what they had learned about the approaching Devourer fleet. Haiyan Wu stood at the back of the hall, watching the chaos. At the center of it all, Captain Jinho waited patiently for the shouting to die down. He had been answering questions for hours, explaining human technology, describing battle tactics, and showing evidence of the Devourer threat. "This is madness," declared Ambassador Wei Jin of the Threx Collective, his insect-like mandibles clicking with agitation. "You expect us to believe that humans have been fighting this phantom enemy for 2 centuries? Where is your proof?" Jinho touched a control on his datapad. The main display filled with images that made the entire hall fall silent. Battle footage from dozens of engagements showed human ships fighting against the dark, flowing vessels of the Devourers. Some of the battles took place near stars that the galactic powers recognized. Others happened in the void between galaxies, in places so dark and empty that they seemed like the edge of existence itself. This footage spans 230 years, Jinho said calmly. Would you like to see more? The images could be fabricated, Wei Jin insisted. Though his voice had lost some of its certainty, Counselor So Young stood up from her seat. Her crystalline body was glowing with a steady, determined light. Ambassador Wei Jin, I was there during the Human War. I saw what their technology could do even then. What Captain Jinho has shown us is consistent with what humans might have developed given 2 centuries of advancement. But surely they're exaggerating the threat, argued Admiral Minho of the Nefkai Deep Fleet. 2 million enemy ships? That's larger than all our combined fleets. Chang Nin, who had been quietly working at a side station, looked up. Actually, Admiral, our latest intelligence suggests the number is closer to 3 million ships now. The Devourer fleet has been growing as it consumes matter from empty star systems. The hall erupted in frightened chatter. 3 million ships was beyond imagination. The entire galactic community could barely manage 50,000 vessels if every civilization contributed everything they had. How do we fight something like that? Asked Delegate Sung Ho from the Outer Rim colonies. The same way humans have been fighting it, Haewon said, stepping forward. With coordination, advanced technology, and tactics that use every advantage. We can find. But you just told us you can't defeat them alone, Wei Jin pointed out. That's correct, Jinho acknowledged. Humans have become very good at fighting Devourers. We can win individual battles, destroy their scout fleets, even eliminate small invasion forces. But their main fleet has adapted to our tactics. They've learned to counter our weapons, avoid our traps, and coordinate attacks on a scale we can't match. Then what hope do we have? So Young asked. Different thinking, Changmin said. He activated a new display that showed tactical simulations. Humans learned to fight Devourers one way. But your civilizations approach problems differently. Veltari crystal technology might disrupt their coordination in ways we haven't tried. Nefkai fluid dynamics could suggest new movement patterns. Threk's collective consciousness might find tactical solutions we've missed. You want us to combine our fleets with yours, Admiral Minho realized. More than that, Jinho said. We want to create something that has never existed before, a true galactic defense force. Every ship, every technology, every tactical doctrine, working together under unified command. The hall fell silent as the implications sank in. What Jinho was proposing would require the 3 galactic powers to give up centuries of independence and territorial competition. Who would command this combined fleet? Wei Jin asked suspiciously. A joint command structure, Haewon replied. Human tactical coordination with strategic input from all civilizations. We've learned how to fight Devourers, but we need your creativity to find new solutions. Temin had been analyzing data at his station throughout the meeting. Now he stood up, his face pale with worry. Captain Jinho, I've been reviewing the scout battle footage. If those were just advanced scouts and they were that powerful? Yes, Jinho prompted. How many ships do you estimate we would need to have a real chance against the main fleet? Jinho considered the question carefully. Conservative estimate? Every ship in the galaxy, plus technological improvements that we haven't developed yet, plus tactical innovations that none of us have thought of, plus perfect coordination across all forces. He paused, and even then our chances would be less than 50%. The hall erupted in panicked voices. Some delegates called for immediate evacuation of the galaxy. Others demanded proof that the threat was real. A few suggested surrendering to the Devourers before the fighting began. Silence. Counselor So Young's voice cut through the chaos. Her crystalline body was now glowing so brightly that it hurt to look at her directly. We are not discussing evacuation or surrender. We are discussing survival. She turned to address the entire assembly. I am old enough to remember when humans first made contact with our civilizations. They were new to space travel, eager to learn, excited to meet other intelligent species. We welcomed them at first. Her glow dimmed as sad memories surfaced. But humans learned too quickly. They adapted too easily. In just decades, they became equals to civilizations that had existed for millennia. We became afraid, and fear made. "U.S. foolish, what's your point?" Wei Jin asked. "My point is that we drove away the one species that might have prevented this crisis. If we had worked with humans from the beginning, if we had combined our knowledge with their adaptability, the Devourer fleet might never have reached our galaxy." She looked directly at Jinho. "Captain, you said humans remember everything. Do you remember the vote to allow human refugees safe passage when the war ended?" "Yes, Counselor." "You were one of only 3 council members who voted in favor. And do you remember what I said during that debate?" Jinho's expression softened slightly. "You said that driving away humans wouldn't solve the galaxy's problems. You said we would need them someday. Today is that day," So Young said firmly. She turned back to the assembly. "We can waste time arguing about command structures and territorial rights. Or we can focus on the fact that in 68 hours, this galaxy will be at war for its very existence." Admiral Minho floated forward in his water suit. "Counselor, So Young is right. The time for politics has passed." He looked at Jinho. "Captain, what do you need from us?" "Immediate mobilization of all military assets," Jinho replied without hesitation. "Every ship, every station, every orbital defense platform. Combined training exercises to integrate our technologies and tactics. And most importantly, we need your best minds working on solutions we haven't thought of yet." "How long do we have to prepare?" asked Delegate Soong-Ho.Chang-Min checked his instruments. "The Devourer main fleet will exit hyperspace in approximately 67 hours and 43 minutes. They'll reach the outer settlements within 6 hours after that." "That's not enough time," Wei Jin protested. "It's the time we have," Hei-Wan said simply. "We can use it effectively or we can waste it arguing." Jinho stepped to the center of the hall. "I want to show you one more thing," he said, activating the main display again. This time it showed a view from outside the galaxy, a perspective from the deep void of intergalactic space. What they saw took their breath away. The Milky Way galaxy spread before them like a spiral of stars and light. It was beautiful, peaceful, and alive with billions of civilizations. "This is what we're fighting for," Jinho said quietly. "Not territory or resources or political power. We're fighting for the right of intelligent life to exist in this galaxy." The image shifted, showing other galaxies in the distance. Several of them were dark, empty of the light that indicated living worlds. "Those galaxies were once like ours," Chang-Min explained. "Full of life, full of civilizations, full of hope. The Devourers consumed them completely. Every world, every species, every possibility for the future. If we lose," Hei-Wan added, "our galaxy becomes another dark spot in the void. All of our histories, all of our achievements, all of our potential, gone forever." The assembly hall was completely quiet now. Every delegate, every representative, every observer stared at the image of their galaxy hanging in the darkness, suddenly understanding how fragile and precious it really was. "The vote is simple," So Young said finally. "Do we stand together, or do we die separately?" One by one, hands, tentacles, claws, and crystalline appendages rose in agreement. Even Wei Jin, after a long moment of hesitation, raised his insectoid arm in support. "Unanimous," announced the assembly recorder. Jin-Ho bowed formally to the gathered representatives. "Then we begin immediately. May whatever gods your species believe in help us all." As delegates began filing out to contact their home governments, Haiyan Wu remained behind with So Young and the human officers. "Captain," he said quietly, "do you really think we can win?" Jinho looked out through the viewing window at the stars. "Commander, 2 centuries ago, humans were driven from this galaxy because we were seen as a threat to established order. Today we're asking that The transformation of the Andorian trade nexus happened faster than anyone thought possible. Within 24 hours, the peaceful commercial station had become the nerve center of the largest military operation in galactic history. Ships arrived from every corner of known space: Valtari crystal carriers, Nefkai deep space battleships, Threx collective swarm vessels, and dozens of smaller fleets from independent worlds. Hyun Woo stood in what used to be the main shopping district, now converted into a massive tactical planning center. Holographic displays showed fleet positions, supply lines, and defensive formations. The air hummed with activity as officers from different species worked side by side, trying to learn each other's languages and protocols in a matter of hours. "It's incredible," said Unji, watching a group of Valtari engineers sharing crystal resonance frequency data with human technicians. Yesterday, these species could barely agree on trade regulations. Now they're sharing military secrets. "Fear is a powerful motivator," Hyun Woo replied. But as he watched the cooperation happening around him, he realized it was more than fear. It was hope, the first time in centuries that the galaxy's civilizations were working toward a common goal. Captain Jinho approached, followed by Admiral Ko-1 of the Valtari Strategic Command. The elderly admiral's crystalline body showed patterns of deep concentration. "Commander Hyun Woo," Jinho said, "we need to discuss the defensive perimeter. Your knowledge of local space lanes will be crucial." "Of course, Captain." "What do you need?" Admiral Ko-1 activated a holographic map of the surrounding star systems. "The Devourer fleet will most likely approach through the Kepler corridor. It's the most direct route from the galactic rim to the core systems." "That's what we would do," Jinho agreed. "But Devourers don't always think like us. They might split their fleet, attack multiple targets simultaneously." "How do we prepare for that?" Hyun Woo asked. "We don't," said a new voice. They turned to see Hae-1 approaching with Chong Min and several alien officers. "We can't defend everywhere at once. Instead, we choose our battlefield." Chong Min activated another display showing the star system around the trade nexus. "This system has advantages. The asteroid fields can hide ships, the gas giant provides gravitational anchor points, and the nebula on the outer edge will interfere with long-range sensors. You want to fight them here?" Admiral Ko-1's patterns flickered with concern. "That puts millions of civilians at risk." "The civilians have been evacuated," Hae-1 said. "But you're right about the risk. If we lose this battle, the Devourers will have a perfect staging area for attacks on the core worlds." "And if we win?" Hyun Woo asked. "If we win," Jinho said, "we'll have proven that the galaxy can stand together against any threat." A communication alert sounded through the command center. Taemin looked up from his station, his face pale. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive hyperspace distortions at the galactic rim. The Devourer fleet is beginning to arrive." The command center fell silent. Every conversation stopped, every task paused as hundreds of beings absorbed the reality that their enemy was no longer theoretical. "How long until they reach us?" Admiral Ko-1 asked. "At current speed, approximately 48 hours, Taemin replied. "But Captain, these readings—" "The fleet is even larger than we estimated." Changmin moved to the sensor station and began analyzing the data. After a few minutes, he looked up with an expression that was both amazed and terrified. "Conservative estimate, 4.2 million vessels. Some of them are larger than anything in our databases." 4 million, Hyun Woo whispered. The number was so large it seemed meaningless. "How many ships do we have?" asked Admiral Ko-1. Hae Asho consulted her datapad. 63,000 vessels from all galactic civilizations. "Plus the human fleet. How many human ships?" Hyun Woo asked. "Classified," Jinho said firmly, "but sufficient for our tactical needs." An aide approached Admiral Ko-1 with an urgent message. After reading it, the Admiral's crystalline body began flashing in rapid, agitated patterns. "What is it?" Jinho asked. "Reports from the outer colonies. Several worlds have gone dark in the past 6 hours. No communications, no sensor readings. It's as if they simply stopped existing." Changmin's expression grew grim. "Devourer advance forces They're clearing the outer systems, consuming resources to fuel the main fleet's approach. How many people lived on those worlds? Hyun Woo asked. Approximately 40 million. Admiral KO-1 replied quietly. The weight of that number settled over the command center like a heavy blanket. 40 million lives erased from existence to feed an alien war machine. We need to accelerate our preparations, Jinho said. Changmin, status on fleet integration? Better than expected. Veltari crystal technology is compatible with our shield systems. Nefkai plasma conduits can boost our power efficiency by 20%. Threx collective networking is improving our tactical coordination. Problems? Communication protocols are still chaotic. Language barriers, different tactical doctrines, incompatible command structures. We're essentially trying to create a unified military from scratch in less than 2 days. Hae-1 stepped forward, which is why we need to simplify the battle plan. Complex strategies will fail when crews can't understand each other's orders. What do you suggest? Admiral KO-1 asked. Jinho activated the central holographic display, showing the planned battle formation. 3 defensive lines. First line engages at maximum range, using long-range weapons to thin their numbers. Second line focuses on breaking up their formation. Third line is our final stand, everything we have, concentrated around the trade nexus. And if all 3 lines fail? Hyun Woo asked. Then we activate the nexus self-destruct, Jinho said calmly. Take out as many enemy ships as possible and deny them the resources of this system. The command center erupted in protests from various species. The idea of destroying the trade nexus, a symbol of galactic cooperation for over 3 centuries, was almost unthinkable. There has to be another way, Admiral KO-1 insisted. There is, Hae-1 said. We win. Changmin was receiving new data at his station. Captain, I'm getting reports from human scout ships. The Devourer fleet is moving faster than anticipated. Arrival time is now 36 hours. Understood. All fleet commanders, general briefing in 1 hour. We need to finalize positions and test communication protocols. As officers began dispersing to their duties, Hyun Woo remained with the human command team. Captain Jinho, can I ask you something? Course. During the war 2 centuries ago, were humans always this calm before battle? Jinho considered the question. No, Commander. 2 centuries ago, we were still learning how to fight. We felt fear, anger, excitement, all the emotions that come with combat. He paused, looking around the bustling command center. 200 years of constant warfare taught us that emotions are luxuries we can't afford. Clear thinking saves lives. Panic kills civilizations. You sound like you've become something different from what you were. We have, Hae-1 said simply. The question is whether that's good or bad for the galaxy. Changmin looked up from his work. Captain, priority message from the fleet. Admiral Sungmin of the Outer Defense Force is requesting immediate consultation. Patch him through. The holographic display changed to show an elderly human in a military uniform that Hyun Woo didn't recognize. Behind him, the bridge of his ship hummed with activity. Admiral Sungmin reporting, sir. Our long-range scouts have made contact with Devourer advance elements. We engaged a screening force of approximately 500 vessels. Results? Jinho asked. Enemy advance force destroyed, no human casualties. But Captain, these Devourers are different from the ones we fought before. They're adapting faster, coordinating better. It's like they've been studying our tactics. They have, Changmin said. Every battle teaches them something new. By the time their main fleet arrives, they'll have adapted to everything we used. Against their scouts. Then how do we fight them? Admiral KO-1 asked. With things they've never seen before, Jinho replied. Galactic innovation, combined technologies and tactics that even we haven't used yet. Admiral Sungmin's image flickered. Captain, one more thing. The Devourer ships. They're not just consuming matter anymore, they're taking prisoners. The command center fell silent. Prisoners? Hae-1 asked. Living beings from the outer colonies. Our scouts detected life signs aboard several enemy vessels. The Devourers are keeping some people alive for some reason. Changmin's expression grew troubled. That's new behavior. In 2 centuries of fighting, they've never taken prisoners before. What does it mean? Haiyan-Wu asked. It means they're changing, Jinho said grimly. Learning not just our tactics, but our psychology. They want to understand us. Why? So they can use our own nature against us? The communication with Admiral Sungmin ended, leaving the command center in thoughtful silence. Outside the viewing windows, ships continued to arrive, the largest gathering of galactic forces in history. But for the first time since the crisis began, Haiyan-Wu wondered if it would be enough. Captain, he said quietly, what happens if we lose? Jinho looked out at the assembled fleet, thousands of ships representing dozens of civilizations, all united for the first time in galactic history. If we lose, Commander, then at least we'll have. The moment every being in the galaxy had been dreading finally arrived. Haiyan-Wu stood in the main command center of the Andorian trade nexus, watching long-range sensors as they detected the largest military force in known history emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system. Contact, announced Temin, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was reporting. Devourer main fleet dropping out of hyperspace. Initial count, 2.7 million vessels and climbing. The main display filled with dots of light, each one representing an enemy ship larger than most space stations. The sheer number was overwhelming. It looked like a second galaxy had suddenly appeared in their system. Fleet status report, Captain Jinho requested calmly. All galactic forces in position, reported Admiral KO-1. First defensive line established at coordinates 77 Alpha. Second line holding at 44 Beta. Final defensive perimeter active around the trade nexus. Human fleet status? Ready and waiting, replied Hei-1 from her station aboard the Retribution. Haiyan-Wu noticed something strange about Jinho's response to the massive enemy fleet. While every other being in the command center showed signs of fear or tension, the human captain seemed almost relieved. Captain, Haiyan-Wu said quietly, you seem calmer now than you did during the preparations. Waiting is always harder than fighting, Jinho replied. For 2 centuries we've been preparing for this moment. Now it's finally here. Changmin looked up from his analysis station. Captain, the Devourer fleet is arranging itself in a formation we haven't seen before. They're creating sectors. Show me. The tactical display zoomed in on the approaching enemy fleet. Instead of the typical swarm approach the Devourers usually used, they were organizing into distinct groups, each one approaching from a different angle. They're not just attacking, Hei-1 observed, and they're surrounding the entire system. They've learned, Admiral KO-1 said, his crystalline body flickering with concern. They know we might try to retreat. No retreat was ever planned, Jinho said firmly. This is where we make our stand. Suddenly, every communication system in the command center activated simultaneously. A voice spoke in perfect galactic standard, but there was something wrong with it, like multiple voices speaking in perfect unison. Civilizations of this galaxy, the voice said, you have been assessed. Your technologies will be integrated. Your biological distinctiveness will be preserved in our archives. Resistance will result in unnecessary resource expenditure. The communication ended, leaving an eerie silence in the command center. They can speak, Yunji whispered. In all our encounters, they've never communicated before. They're adapting, Changmin said grimly. Learning to use psychology as a weapon. Should we respond? Admiral KO-1 asked Jin-Ho move to the communication panel. Open channel to the Devourer fleet. When the connection was established, Jinho spoke clearly and calmly. This is Captain Jinho of the United Earthship Retribution, speaking for the Galactic Defense Alliance. Your assessment is incorrect. We are not resources to be harvested. We are intelligent beings with the right to exist freely in this galaxy. Humanity? The collective voice responded, and there was something like recognition in it. You have grown efficient since our last encounters. Your resistance delayed our arrival in this galaxy by 147 years. This adaptation impressed us. Impressed? Hey, one's voice came through the cum. They sound almost appreciative. We have learned much from studying captured specimens from your species, the voice continued. Human creativity combined with galactic cooperation represents an interesting evolutionary development. We will preserve select individuals for further study. The command center erupted in angry voices from various species. The idea of being preserved for study was horrifying to every civilization present. Jinho raised his hand for silence. And what of the rest of us? Your matter will be reconfigured to serve more efficient purposes. Your civilizations will be recorded in our archives. This is the standard process for all galaxies. How many galaxies have you consumed? Admiral KO1 asked. This will be galaxy number 1473. Each has contributed unique elements to our collective understanding. The number hit the command center like a physical blow. Over 1,000 galaxies, each one containing billions of civilizations, all consumed by this relentless force. What? Are you really? Jinho asked. What do you want? We are what remains of the first galaxy to achieve perfect unity. All biological and technological distinctiveness combined into a single, efficient entity. We seek to preserve the uniqueness of all intelligent life by incorporating it into our collective. By destroying it, A1 pointed out, by perfecting it. Individual civilizations are inefficient, prone to conflict and waste. We eliminate these flaws. Haiyan-Wu felt sick. The Devourers genuinely believed they were helping the civilizations they consumed. Thank you for the explanation, Jinho said politely. Our response is no, clarification required. No is not a recognized option in this process. Then you'll learn something new today, Jinho replied. Humanity has a saying, give me liberty or give me death. We choose death over assimilation. Inefficient choice. We will begin the integration process. Resistance will be noted and analyzed. The communication ended. On the tactical display, the Devourer fleet began moving toward the first defensive line. All ships, Jinho announced over the fleet-wide channel, this is it. Remember your training, trust your allies, and show them what free civilizations can accomplish when they work together. The first engagement began at maximum range. Galactic forces opened fire with everything they had, crystal energy beams from Veltari ships, plasma torrents from Nefkai vessels, and coordinated swarm attacks from Threk's collective fleets. The Devourer ships absorbed the initial assault and kept coming. Their dark hulls seemed to eat the energy weapons, and their adaptive armor deflected most physical projectiles. First line has taken heavy casualties, reported Taemin. Enemy ships are adapting to our weapons faster than anticipated. Second line, prepare to engage, Admiral KO1 ordered. But as the battle intensified, something unexpected happened. The coordinated attacks from different galactic civilizations began creating interference patterns that the Devourers couldn't adapt to quickly enough. When Veltari crystal beams interacted with Nefkai plasma streams, they created entirely new forms of energy that the enemy had never encountered. They're struggling with our combined technologies, Changmin observed. Their adaptation algorithms aren't designed for weapons that change in real time. Good, Jinho said. Now comes the real test, which is what? Haiyan-Wu asked. Weather. The galaxy is ready to see what humanity became during our exile. Jinho activated a control that Haiyan-Wu had never seen before. Throughout the system, space itself seemed to ripple. All human vessels, Jinho announced. Operation Revelation is authorized. Execute immediately. What happened next redefined Haiyan-Wu's understanding of what was possible in space combat. Ships began appearing out of nowhere, not emerging from hyperspace, but literally materializing from invisible states. They were human vessels, but unlike anything that had existed during the Old War. These ships moved like living creatures, their hulls flowing and changing shape in real time. How many ships do you have? Admiral KO1 asked in amazement. Enough. Hey, one replied simply. The human fleet didn't just attack the Devourers. They dismantled them with surgical precision. Weapons that bent space-time itself, projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and defensive systems. That made their ships nearly impossible to target, but what impressed Henwu most was the coordination. Human ships moved like parts of a single organism, anticipating each other's actions and supporting weaknesses before they could be exploited. Devourer fleet is adapting to human tactics, Taemin reported. They're learning fast. Good, Jinho said, surprising everyone. Let them learn, sir. The more they adapt to fight humans, the less effective they'll be against galactic technologies. And the more they adapt to galactic technologies, the less effective they'll be against humans, Admiral KO-1 finished, understanding dawning. In his voice, exactly. We're not trying to win this battle through superior force. We're trying to win it through superior coordination. The battle continued for hours, with neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. The Devourers had overwhelming numbers, but the combined galactic fleet had something they had never faced before: true cooperation between fundamentally different approaches to warfare. As the fight reached its climax, Chang Min made an observation. That changed everything. Captain, the Devourer ships aren't just adapting to our weapons. They're adapting to our coordination itself. Explain. They're learning to disrupt our communication networks, jam our coordination protocols. They're figuring out how to make us fight as separate fleets instead of a unified force. Jinho's expression grew serious. How long before they succeed? At current rates, maybe 6 hours. Then we need to end this battle in 5. How? Admiral. KO-1 asked. Jinho looked around the command center at the representatives of dozens of civilizations, all working together toward a common goal. By showing them something they can't adapt to because The final hour of the battle began with what seemed like defeat. Half the galactic fleet was gone, their formations broken by Devourer ships that had learned to counter every tactic the Alliance could deploy. The enemy had adapted faster than anyone thought possible, turning the combined fleet's greatest strength, their diversity, into a weakness by disrupting their coordination. Hyun-Wu watched the tactical display with growing despair. Red indicators showed friendly ships going dark one by one, while the mass of Devourer vessels continued to advance toward the trade nexus. Third defensive line is failing, Taemin reported. Enemy breakthrough in sectors 4, 7, and 12. They'll reach the station in 40 minutes? Human fleet status? Jinho asked calmly. Down to 60% operational capacity, Hae-Won replied from the Retribution. But Captain, our ships are still adapting. Every minute we fight, we learn something new about their weaknesses. And they learn about ours, Changmin pointed out. This can't continue. At current rates, mutual adaptation will favor whoever has more ships. Which is them, Admiral KO-1 said, his crystalline body dimming with exhaustion. By a factor of 40 to 1. Jinho stood silent for a moment, studying the battle display. Around him, the command center buzzed with desperate activity as officers from dozens of species tried to coordinate a defense that was falling apart in real time. Captain, Hyun-Woo said quietly, do you have any more surprises? 1, Jinho replied. But using it means accepting that some of us won't survive the next hour. What kind of surprise? Instead of answering, Jinho activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice reached every ship, every crew member, every being fighting for their galaxy's survival. All vessels, this is Captain Jinho. The Devourer fleet has adapted to our tactics faster than we anticipated. They're learning to fight like us, coordinate like us, even think like us. In another hour, they'll have absorbed everything we can teach them. Murmurs of concern rippled through the open channel. But there's one thing they cannot adapt to, because it requires something they do not possess, the willingness to sacrifice yourself for others' freedom. What I'm about to propose will seem impossible, maybe even insane. But it's the only way to save this galaxy. Jinho paused, looking around the command center at the faces watching him, Veltari, Nefkai, Threx, humans, and dozens of other species, all united in this moment. I need every ship in the fleet to link their computer systems directly to human command networks, no safeguards, no restrictions. Complete integration of all our technologies, tactics, and capabilities. The communication channel erupted with protests. Linking computer systems that completely was the ultimate act of trust. It would give humans access to every secret, every weakness, every defensive system in the galactic fleet. Captain, Admiral KO once said, that level of integration ... You would have total control over our fleets. Our civilizations would be defenseless against you. Yes, Jinho said simply. For the next hour, humanity will have the power to conquer the entire galaxy. The question is, do you trust us not to use it? The channel fell silent. For 2 centuries, the galaxy had lived with the memory of driving humanity away because they were too dangerous to trust. Now, in their darkest hour, that same galaxy was being asked to trust humans with everything. This is Admiral Minho of the Nefkai Deep Fleet, came a voice over the com. Linking systems now. Ambassador Wei-Jin of the Threx Collective, integration authorized. Counselor So-Young, Veltari Crystal Empire. All Veltari vessels link immediately. One by one, every civilization in the fleet authorized total system integration. In minutes, human command networks were connected to thousands of alien vessels, giving them unprecedented control over technologies they had never seen before. Changmin, Jinho said, analysis of combined capabilities. Extraordinary, Changmin replied, his fingers dancing over controls that now manage technologies from across the galaxy. Veltari crystal matrices can boost our shield efficiency by 300%. Nefkai plasma systems can overcharge our weapons beyond theoretical limits. Threx collective processing can coordinate attacks across the entire fleet simultaneously. And the cost? Complete system integration like this will burn out most of our computers within an hour. Win or lose, these fleets will be defenseless. Afterward, do it. What happened next was unlike anything in the history of galactic warfare. The combined fleet stopped fighting like separate forces and began operating as a single, impossibly complex organism. Veltari ships provided shields for human vessels, while human ships provided firepower for Nefkai formations. Threx Collective. Ships coordinated attacks that spanned entire star systems. The Devourers, which had been adapting to each civilization's tactics individually, suddenly found themselves facing something entirely new, a fighting force that combined the best aspects of thousands of different species into a unified whole. Devourer fleet is attempting to adapt, Taemin reported. But they can't keep up? Our tactics are changing faster than their algorithms can process. Good, Haewon said. Now for the final surprise? Human ships throughout the fleet suddenly began to change. Their hulls flowed like liquid, reconfiguring themselves in real time. Weapons that had been hidden for 2 centuries emerged from folded space. Power cores that shouldn't have been possible activated throughout the human fleet. What are those ships doing? Admiral KO-1 asked in amazement. Showing you what we really became during our exile, Jinho replied. The human vessels were no longer ships in any conventional sense. They had become something between a spacecraft and a living creature, adapting and evolving in the middle of battle. When Devourer weapons struck them, they changed to absorb the energy. When enemy tactics threatened to overwhelm them, they shifted their configurations to counter. Captain, Changmin said with excitement, the combined fleet efficiency is exceeding all projections. We're not just matching the Devourer adaptation rate, we're surpassing it. On the tactical display, the tide of battle began to turn. The massive Devourer fleet, which had seemed unstoppable just minutes before, was now losing ships faster than they could adapt to the Alliance's ever-changing tactics. Incoming communication from the Devourer fleet, Yonji announced. Put it through. The collective voice of the Devourers filled the command center, but for the first time, it sounded uncertain. This adaptation pattern is ... unprecedented. Your coordination exceeds known parameters for individual civilizations. That's because we're not individual civilizations anymore, Jinho replied. For this battle, we've become something new. Impossible. Distinct species cannot achieve true unity. Our analysis of 1,472 galaxies confirms this limitation. Then you learned something new today, Hay1 said. Congratulations. This cooperation cannot be sustained. Historical analysis indicates that alliances between different species inevitably fail due to competing interests. You're probably right, Jinho admitted. Tomorrow we'll probably go back to arguing about trade routes and territorial boundaries. But today we choose to stand together. Why? The question hung in the air. Why would thousands of civilizations risk everything to fight together when they had spent millennia competing against each other? Han Wu found himself speaking before he even realized it. Because some things are more important than our differences. Because freedom isn't just about humans or Veltari or any single species. It's about the right of all intelligent life to choose its own path. Inefficient reasoning, the Devourer voice replied, but there was something different in its tone now. Choice leads to conflict. Unity eliminates waste. Choice also leads to growth, Counselor So Young said, her crystalline body glowing brightly, as she joined the conversation. To art, to discovery, to love, your unity eliminates the very things that make life worth living. We preserve the essence of all civilizations in our archives. Preserved in archives isn't the same as being alive, Admiral Ko once said. Life requires the freedom to make mistakes, to choose badly, to fail and try again. The tactical display showed Devourer ships beginning to withdraw from the battle. For the first time in their history, they were losing a major engagement. This outcome was not predicted by our models, the collective voice said. We require time to analyze these new variables. Take all the time you need, Jinho said. But take it somewhere else. This galaxy is not available for consumption. We will return when we have adapted to counter your cooperation. Maybe, Jinho replied. But by then we might have adapted too. And next time, maybe other galaxies will be ready to fight alongside us. The communication ended. On the display, the massive Devourer fleet began disappearing into hyperspace, retreating toward the galactic rim. The greatest threat in known history was withdrawing, defeated not by superior firepower, but by something they couldn't understand or replicate. The command center erupted in cheers from dozens of different species. But Jinho remained focused on the technical readouts. Fleet status report, he requested. 90% of computer systems are burned out, Changmin reported. Most ships will need complete overhauls before they can function independently. Again, which means? Admiral Ko1 asked. Which means, Hay1 said with a smile, that for the next few weeks,